Queen Jarin had ruled the Veskari hive for more than 200 cycles. In all that time, she had never known fear. She was born into war, raised in fire, and crowned in blood. Her body was covered in hard black chitin, scarred by old battles. Her eyes glowed amber, sharp enough to make generals lower their heads. When she walked through the royal halls, the ground vibrated under her weight. When she spoke, entire star systems listened. The galaxy called her the Fierce Queen. Enemies called her the N. But inside the massive throne chamber, where no one else was allowed to enter, Jarin was something else. She was a mother. Her daughters, the twin princesses Sail and Mira, were her heart made flesh. They were small, fragile, and soft, their chitin still pale and smooth. They followed her everywhere, their tiny claws clicking on the stone floor as they tried to keep up. Sael was curious. She asked endless questions about the stars, about other species, about why wars happened. Mira was quiet. She preferred listening, watching, and curling close to her mother's side. Jarin allowed no harm near them. Elite guards surrounded the royal wing day and night. Sensors watched every breath of air. Nothing entered or left without her knowing, or so she believed. On the day her world broke, Jarin returned early from a council meeting. The talks had been dull trade routes, border disputes, threats that meant nothing to her. All she wanted was to see her daughters. She stepped into the royal chamber. Silence greeted her. No laughter. No small voices. No excited footsteps running toward her. Her eyes narrowed. Sail, she called. Mira. Number. Answer. The air felt wrong. Too still. Too empty. Jarin moved faster, her claws clicking sharply as she crossed the room. She pushed open the inner chamber doors. They were empty. The cushions where her daughters slept were torn. Small items lay scattered across the floor. A broken guard drone smoked in the corner. Another lay smashed near the wall, its core shattered. For the first time in her life, Jarin's breath caught. She felt something cold twist inside her chest. She ran. The queen of 1,000 battles searched every room herself. Her soldiers followed in panic, struggling to keep up as she tore through halls, ripping doors open, roaring commands. "Find them," she shouted. "Search everything. Kill anyone who resists." Alarms screamed across the hive. War lights turned red. Ships powered up in their docks. The entire Veskari Empire felt the change in its queen. Minutes passed. Then more. Still nothing. A guard finally approached, trembling. "My queen." "There's an escape pod missing. Small, unmarked." Jarin froze out an escape pod. Her daughters were gone. The sound that came from her was not a scream of grief. It was a roar of pure rage. The walls cracked. Lights shattered. Warriors dropped to one knee as the queen's fury washed over them like a storm. "Who?" she growled, her voice shaking the air. "Dared to touch my children?" No one answered. Because no one had an answer. Jarin turned toward the stars beyond the great viewing window. Her reflection stared back, burning eyes, clenched claws. A queen ready for war. "Listen to me," she said, her voice low and deadly. "To whoever took them, I will find you." Her fleet launched within the hour. Hundreds of warships spread out like a dark tide. Scanning systems, tearing through stations. Hunting rumors and whispers. The galaxy had feared Queen Jarin before. But now, she was not hunting for power or territory. She was hunting for her daughters. And nothing in the universe was ready for a mother with nothing left to lose. Queen Jarin's rage was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was not anger at an enemy fleet, nor fury at a traitorous general. This was deeper, more personal. The kind that could make stars tremble and planets hide in fear. Her daughters, her precious children, had vanished. Every second without them felt like a knife twisting inside her. She began the hunt immediately. Her flagship, black as midnight, cut through the void at impossible speeds. Sensors scanned every system, picking up even the smallest trace of movement. She followed whispers of small ships, broken distress calls, and faint signatures of pods drifting through asteroid belts. Each clue brought hope, and each dead end brought a new wave of frustration. The first systems she entered were pirate dens. Thieves who had long ignored Veskari law now quaked in terror as Jarin's fleet tore through their stations. Her warriors moved like shadows of death, leaving nothing behind but smoke and the echo of screams. No prisoner lived long enough to tell a story, yet she did not stop. Her daughters were out there, and she could feel their fear like a heartbeat calling to her across the stars. Next came the slaver rings. They were bold, thinking humans or other species might hide the children for profit. But they had forgotten one truth: Jarin never forgave. Entire stations fell in flames before her. Her claws tore through doors, her voice commanded surrender, her eyes burned hotter than suns. Every corner she searched was littered with evidence of broken lives, yet still no sign of Sail and Mira. Rumors reached her then. Small, whispered words from terrified captives, words that made her stop mid-step. Humans? Humans? The fragile, soft species that had only recently joined the Galactic Council. They were not warriors. They were not thieves or conquerors. They traded, built, and negotiated. They rarely fought. And yet somehow they had her daughters. Somehow they had survived a queen's wrath. Jarin's mind raced. It did not compute. A human taking her children? Impossible. Yet the trail led there. Every signal, every escape pod, every trace of life pointed toward the human systems. And so she went. As her fleet crossed the border into human space, alarms sounded on every station. Panic spread like wildfire. Humans mobilized their defenses, but they were unprepared for the storm that arrived. Jarin's ships were massive, dark, and unyielding. No warning was given, no negotiation requested. She wanted her daughters, and she would accept nothing else. Her warriors moved with precision, scanning ports, docking stations, and even private vessels. Each ship was inspected. Each crew interrogated. Her anger was measured, sharp, and unstoppable. No one could hide from the Queen. The humans tried to negotiate. They sent envoys, messages, and peace offers. They even warned their fleets to stay out of her path. But Jarin ignored them all. Peace meant nothing when her children were in danger. Hours turned into days. Systems were scoured, stations were evacuated or destroyed, and still, the twins were nowhere to be found. Her fury began to mix with another emotion she rarely allowed herself to feel: fear. Not for herself, she had faced worse than death, but for her daughters. The thought of them alone, frightened, in a strange, soft world, made her chest ache in ways no battle ever had. Finally, one trace appeared. A small, faint life signature on a remote medical station orbiting a blue planet. It was weak, fragile, almost undetectable like a whisper. But Jarin recognized it instantly. Her daughters, without hesitation, she ordered the fleet to converge. There would be no negotiations now. No mercy, no patience. She had found them. The hunt was almost over, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. For the first time in centuries, Queen Jarin allowed herself a thought beyond rage: relief. Her children were alive. Somewhere close, her daughters waited. And the Queen, the fiercest being in known space, would stop at nothing to bring them home. The stars themselves would witness what happened next. The remote medical station orbited a quiet blue planet, almost forgotten in human charts. Inside, the hum of machines was the only sound, soft and steady, blending with the gentle beeps of monitoring devices. Here, far from the chaos of interstellar politics, Daniel Reyes slept in a simple recovery bed. His body was bruised and weak from an accident in an orbital construction project weeks ago, but his mind was calm. He did not know the storm that approached. Weeks ago, Daniel had discovered two small alien children drifting in an escape pod. Their pod had been mangled, the hull scorched and cracked, barely holding together. They were tiny, fragile, and terrified. Their pale, soft chitin was still forming, their limbs trembling from fear and starvation. Daniel had acted on instinct. He had no training with alien life forms, no combat skills, no authority. But he had a heart. And that had been enough. He had pulled them from the wreckage, wrapped them in clean blankets, and offered what little he could: food, water, warmth, and safety. He had repaired their broken translator implants enough for them to understand simple words, but not for them to fully communicate. The twins had cried for days, their small voices echoing through the station, piercing Daniel's heart. Every time he held them close, their bodies trembling, he felt a responsibility that went beyond reason. They were alive because of him. And that realization both terrified and humbled him. At night, the twins slept curled up against him, small hands clutching his shirt, faces pressed against his chest. He could feel their tiny hearts beating in rhythm with his own. Sometimes he whispered old Earth lullabies his mother used to sing, hoping the rhythm of his voice could soothe them. And somehow it worked. Sail would hum softly, Mira would close her eyes, and for a while the room would be quiet. It was the only peace Daniel had ever known in weeks. On this particular day, Daniel was exhausted but relieved. He had just managed to stabilize Mira's condition after a sudden fever. Sail sat beside him, watching him carefully, her small eyes full of cautious trust. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Unaware that the storm of black chitin and fire was almost upon them. Outside, sensors picked up an approaching fleet. Massive ships, moving with precision, engines burning bright and cold through the void. Daniel had seen many human ships before, but nothing like this. The sensors triggered alarms, flashing warnings in bright red. Panic gripped him, and he rushed to the twins' room, holding them close. He had no weapons, no plan. All he could do was protect them with his own body. The doors to the medical bay shook. The walls hummed with the energy of massive ships docking outside. And then the airlock doors burst open. Shadows filled the room. Metal clanged. Weapons were raised. Humans scrambled, their voices shouting in confusion and fear. And there she was, Queen Gerin, the fierce queen of the Veskari hive. Her massive figure filled the doorway, black chitin gleaming, amber eyes burning like twin suns. Her claws glinted as she moved, and the air seemed to vibrate with her presence. For a brief moment, Daniel thought the universe had brought death itself into the room. He froze. His arms instinctively tightened around the twins. He knew he should run, hide, or surrender. But none of those choices seemed possible. The queen's gaze swept the room. Her voice, deep and resonant, filled every corner. "Where are my daughters?" Daniel's heart pounded. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. The queen took a step closer, and every instinct screamed that he should drop everything and flee. But the twins pressed closer to him, tiny claws clutching his shirt. Their trust anchored him. Jorin's warriors, massive and deadly, moved in behind her, weapons raised. They were ready to strike, to kill anything that might harm the princesses. Daniel realized then that he was completely outmatched. There was no chance of surviving a confrontation, and yet, here he was, standing between a queen and her children, holding the fragile hope of their lives in his arms. For a moment, the queen stopped. Her eyes focused on the twins curled against Daniel's chest. Sail peeked up at her mother, blinking in recognition. Mira pressed closer, seeking the warmth and heartbeat that had saved her. And something impossible happened. Gerin, the fierce queen who had never feared anything in the galaxy, hesitated. Her massive claws lowered slightly. Her amber eyes softened, just a fraction. The most dangerous being in known space stood frozen, staring at a human whose only power was love. Daniel swallowed hard, holding his breath. The twins' soft breathing against his chest seemed louder than the roar of fleets outside. And in that heartbeat, the impossible truth became clear. Sometimes courage is not measured in weapons or fleets. Sometimes it is measured in the warmth of a chest and the steady rhythm of a human heart. The Queen's next move would decide not just the fate of her daughters, but the fate of two species, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The medical bay was silent, except for the faint beeping of machines and the soft, uneven breaths of the two small aliens curled against Daniel Reyes' chest. Time seemed as slow as Queen Jarin stepped closer, each movement deliberate, powerful, and terrifying. Her massive form filled the room, black chitin glinting in the artificial light. Every human present instinctively froze, knowing that even one wrong move could mean death. Daniel's heart pounded so loudly, it seemed the Queen could hear it. His arms trembled as he held the twins tighter. He was just a human, fragile, unarmed, weak, no match for the Queen whose fleets had toppled entire star systems. And yet, somehow, he had kept the children alive until now. Somehow he was standing between death itself and the small, innocent lives that depended on him. Jarin's amber eyes scanned the room, burning through walls, through machines, through Daniel's very soul. Her warriors raised their weapons, ready to act on a single motion. Daniel swallowed hard, unsure if this would be the end. His mind raced, trying to find some words that could save them, some explanation that might reach her. But he knew reason often did not reach a being like her. Only one thing mattered now, the twins. Sail stirred first. She blinked up at the Queen, and recognition flared in her golden eyes. "Mother," she whispered, the translator implant managing only a fragment of her voice. The word was tiny, fragile, yet it seemed to shake the very air around them. Mira, still asleep, shifted slightly, pressing closer to Daniel's chest. Her tiny claws gripped his shirt, her face nuzzling the warmth of his heartbeat. She was still a child, still scared, still trusting someone who was not her mother, but her safety, her comfort, had been found here. In this human, for a moment. The room was caught between two extremes, the cold terror of a queen who had destroyed worlds, and the fragile hope of a human who had kept two children alive with nothing but care and warmth. Jarin's claws trembled slightly. Her warriors stiffened, sensing something impossible, hesitation from their queen. Daniel finally found his voice. I found them drifting in an escape pod," he said slowly, each word chosen with care. "They were hurt, starving, afraid. I couldn't just leave them." His chest heaved with each word. "They only calm down when they can feel a heartbeat. I kept them safe. That's all." The Queen's gaze softened just a fraction. She crouched slightly to see her daughters better. The twins' small faces were peaceful now, safe in the arms of a human. Sail's tiny hand reached up toward her mother, Mira still clinging to Daniel, yet safe. Jarin's chest tightened. She had fought entire armies, faced tyrants and gods, and yet she had never felt such a mixture of fury, relief, and awe. Her warriors lowered their weapons slowly. The room seemed to exhale. Jarin knelt before Daniel, not in surrender, not in weakness, but in recognition of something far greater than any fleet or weapon could command, the courage to protect what mattered most. "You guarded what my fleets could not protect," Jarin said. Her voice deep and resonant, trembling with emotion she rarely allowed herself to feel. "My daughters, you kept them alive." Daniel swallowed hard, unsure if he should speak or bow, unsure if he even deserved the acknowledgement of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. I only did what I could," he said quietly. "I just wanted them to be safe." Sail's small voice, now stronger, called again, "Mother." And in that single word, everything changed. Jiren's fury did not vanish, but it was tempered now by relief and gratitude. Her daughters were alive. Not just alive, they were safe. For the first time in centuries, the queen of the Veskari hive understood something new. Power was not only measured in fleets or weapons. Sometimes, true power was the ability to protect, to care, to hold fragile life in your arms and keep it safe against all odds. Daniel realized then that he was no longer just a human, no longer just someone caught in the path of a queen. He was a bridge between two worlds, the living proof that even the fiercest being in the galaxy could recognize the strength and kindness, the courage in a steady heartbeat, and the unyielding power of love. And as the twins slept peacefully, curled up on his chest, the queen, the fiercest and most feared in the galaxy, knelt silently, realizing that perhaps in all her battles, she had never truly understood what courage really was, until now the room was still. Machines hummed softly, the only sound beside the steady rhythm of Daniel's heartbeat beneath the twins. Jiren remained on her knees, massive form casting a shadow that seemed to fill the entire medical bay. Her eyes, still glowing amber, softened in a way Daniel could hardly believe. The fiercest queen in known space, who had toppled planets, shattered fleets, and destroyed anyone who dared defy her, was now silent, listening. And he was about to speak. Daniel took a shaky breath. The weight of the queen's gaze pressed down on him, yet he forced himself to remain calm. Your daughters. The escape pod. They weren't taken to hurt them. Someone tried to hide them, yes, but I found them first. His voice was steady now, filled with quiet conviction. They were scared, weak, almost dying. I couldn't let them die. I didn't think of fleets, or politics, or power. I just wanted them to survive. Jiren studied him, her massive claws folded in front of her. Why? She asked, her voice low and resonant, shaking slightly with something she rarely admitted, curiosity mixed with awe. Why would a human risk his life for creatures he barely understands? Daniel swallowed. Because they're children, he said simply. Because when I looked at them, I didn't see aliens or royalty or anything else. I saw fear and pain and the need to be safe. And I knew I could help. That's all. The queen's warriors shifted uneasily. They had never seen her hesitate, never seen her listen without demanding obedience. Yet here she was, hearing the human explain the impossible. And for the first time, she questioned everything she thought she knew about strength, courage, and protection. Sail stirred, blinking at her mother and then at Daniel. She reached a tiny hand toward Jiren and spoke softly, her voice trembling with trust and love. Mother. He kept us safe. Mira, still clinging to Daniel, made a tiny sound of agreement, pressing her face against his chest. The queen's massive heart tightened. Her daughters were safe. Not just alive, but comforted, loved, and unafraid. And the one responsible was not a general, not a warrior, not someone of power, but a human. Jiren's voice softened further. He protected what all my fleets could not. He held my daughters in his arms, kept them alive, and never wavered. And he did this without fear of me. Daniel looked up, meeting the queen's eyes. He did not bow, he did not tremble. He only nodded slowly. I didn't have to fear you. I didn't want them to die. I wanted them to feel safe. That's all a parent or a guardian should do. The queen rose slightly, towering over him, and yet she did not strike. The tension in the room shifted, replaced by a quiet awe. Her warriors, seeing their queen restrained by something more powerful than anger, lowered their weapons. Even in the presence of the most feared being in the galaxy, compassion had conquered rage. Jiren knelt fully now, touching the floor lightly with a claw as she spoke again. A human has shown me something my entire life has not. That strength is not always measured in fleets or wars or domination. Sometimes it is measured in the quiet courage to protect what is fragile, to nurture what is small, to love what is vulnerable. Daniel's chest tightened. He had never thought of himself as brave. He had never thought of humans as powerful. But in that moment, with the Queen listening, with the twins safe against his heart, he realized that what he had done mattered more than any medal, any weapon. Any Fleet.Szel curled closer to her mother, whispering, "We are safe because of him." Jarin's eyes glimmered with something foreign: gratitude, respect, awe. She reached out, not to punish, not to demand, but to acknowledge. "You have my respect," she said, voice low and steady. "My daughters are alive because of you. I owe you more than I can ever say." Daniel shook his head. "You don't owe me. I only did what anyone would do. Anyone who could." The Queen studied him a long moment. She had conquered countless foes, ruled entire galaxies, and destroyed those who dared oppose her. Yet here, she saw a truth that war never taught her. Sometimes, the smallest acts of care, the quietest courage, and the gentlest hands could shape the fate of the galaxy. The twins nestled more comfortably against him, their breathing soft and even. Daniel's heart beat steadily beneath them. And in that simple rhythm, Jarin realized that perhaps humans were not fragile after all. Perhaps their strength lay in what she had never understood: the ability to protect, to nurture, and to love, even when the universe itself threatened to tear everything apart. For the first time, the Queen smiled, not a smile of triumph, or victory, or conquest, but a smile of relief, understanding, and wonder. And in that quiet moment, the impossible truth became clear. Sometimes, a human's heart is stronger than the fiercest claws in the galaxy. The twins slept peacefully, curled against Daniel's chest, while the Queen's gaze remained fixed on them. The room was quiet, yet heavy with unspoken tension. Outside, the hum of the medical station continued, but inside, time seemed to pause. Queen Jarin, the fiercest being in the galaxy, had to make a decision that no ruler had ever faced before. Her daughters were safe, but for how long? The galaxy waited for her command. Her fleets were ready, her warriors poised. The universe expected action. She knelt, towering over Daniel, her massive claws brushing the floor. "They are mine," she said softly, almost to herself, yet loud enough for Daniel to hear. "My daughters must return to the hive. They cannot remain here." Daniel's chest tightened. He had expected this. The moment would come when the Queen demanded her children back. But he could not let go, not yet. Sail shifted slightly, mumbling, "Stay. Stay with him." Her words were small, hesitant, yet filled with determination. Mira pressed closer, her tiny body seeking the warmth of Daniel's heartbeat. Jarin's eyes softened as she looked at the twins. She understood their choice before they even spoke it. Her daughters, the heirs of the Veskari hive, had found safety in the unlikeliest of places. They had chosen a human, a being frail, soft, and vulnerable, as their protector. And in that choice, they had chosen love over fear, warmth over armor. Her warriors stiffened, expecting orders. Yet the Queen remained silent, wrestling with a decision that would change the future of her empire. No law, no protocol, no custom could guide her now. She had to choose between duty and the happiness of her children, between the expectations of an empire and the fragile desires of two small beings who trusted a human more than they trusted their own bloodline. Daniel swallowed, unsure of what to say. "They're safe here," he whispered. I just want them to feel safe. That's all." His words were simple, almost humble, but they carried a weight that reached even the Queen's hardened heart. Jarin studied him, her amber eyes glowing with a mixture of awe, suspicion, and reluctant respect. This human had no fleet, no power, no position, and yet he had done what no general, no warrior, and no diplomat could: He had kept her daughters alive and comforted them. He had earned their trust. And the queen, despite all her strength, understood that trust could not be commanded. It had to be given freely. Finally, she rose, her massive form filling the room. Her gaze fell on Daniel. "You have shown courage, unlike any I have seen," she said. "You have protected what my armies could not. For that, I owe you more than I can express. You will not leave this station alone." Daniel's eyes widened. I don't understand. You're saying I stay with them?" The queen nodded. "You will come with us. Not as a servant, not as a prisoner, but as their guardian, their protector, and their family. You will have the authority and protection of the Veskari hive. You will never leave their side." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes, but he swallowed them. He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of this honor and the danger it carried. "I will do everything I can," he promised, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. The twins stirred, sensing the decision. Sail's small hand reached for Daniel, and Mira's tiny claws clutched his shirt. Their eyes shone with relief and happiness. They had been heard. They had been protected. And now their choice mattered. Jarin looked at them, and for the first time, she smiled, not a queen's smile of power, not a warrior's grin of victory, but a mother's smile of understanding and acceptance. "Then it is settled," she said. "We leave together. You will guard my daughter's human, and the galaxy will see that courage is not measured by claws or fleets or conquests, but by the strength to protect what is fragile and to love what cannot defend itself." The queen turned to her warriors, who lowered their weapons in unison. Orders were given. Ships were readied. And the human who had once been insignificant in the eyes of the galaxy now prepared to leave with the most important beings in the universe. As the station prepared for departure, Daniel looked down at the twins. Their small faces, safe and peaceful against his chest, reminded him of everything he had risked. And in that moment, he understood the truth that Jarin had come to realize. Sometimes, the most impossible choices in the galaxy were guided not by strength or fear, but by love, trust, and the simple courage to protect those who could not protect themselves. And so, an unthinkable alliance was born: a human, the fiercest queen in the galaxy, and two small daughters who had taught them both the meaning of heart. Together, they would face a universe that would never expect what was coming next. The journey back to the Veskari hive was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Daniel Reyes stood on the bridge of the flagship, dwarfed by towering consoles and the immense presence of Queen Jarin at his side. The twins, Sail and Mira, slept safely in their chambers, wrapped in soft blankets and resting against small cushions. For the first time in weeks, Daniel allowed himself to breathe. They were alive. They were safe. And he was still here. Jarin observed him quietly, her amber eyes glowing with a mixture of curiosity and respect. She had commanded entire fleets, conquered worlds, and shattered countless enemies, but this human had shown her something she had never understood. A human's courage was not measured by weapons, armies, or cunning. It was measured by the heart, by the simple, unwavering desire to protect those who could not protect themselves. Daniel had done what no general could, what no weapon could. He had saved her children with nothing but warmth, patience, and love. And in doing so, he had changed the queen's understanding of strength forever. The twins awoke in the middle of the journey, blinking sleep from their eyes. They ran into Daniel's arms without hesitation, clinging to him as if the world could only be safe in his embrace. Sail whispered, "We stayed with him, Mother. We wanted him." Mira pressed closer, her small face warm against his chest. Jarin's massive heart swelled with a mixture of awe and pride. Her daughters were brave. They had chosen trust over fear, love over instinct. And their choice had proven her own instincts wrong. Humans were far stronger than she had ever imagined. When they arrived at the hive, the Veskari soldiers watched with shock. Their queen, the fierce Jirin, who had once crushed worlds without hesitation, now walked calmly beside a human. He was not hidden. He bore no weapons, no shields, nothing but the trust of two small beings who had become the most important people in the galaxy to him. Za, Rin addressed her court, her voice calm but resonant, echoing across the grand chamber. "This human," she said, gesturing to Daniel, "has shown courage beyond the might of any Veskari warrior. He has protected my daughters when all else failed. From this day forward, he is their guardian, their protector, and their family. Let it be known that strength does not belong to claws, armor, or fleets alone. Strength belongs to the heart." The assembly was silent, stunned. Humans were soft. Humans were weak.